Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Edge podcast. And today's guest is PJ. PJ, like we always do, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your business, why you got into it, and just in general, tell us about what it is you do.
Yeah, so my name is PJ Antonic. I own a custom home building development company south of Boston, servicing the South Shore of Massachusetts, Cape Cod, and Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. Pretty wide area. If you know that geographic spot, it's not a small area to service. Um, yeah, so we have a development company. We build homes and sell them, and then we also work with clients to build their dream homes and gut renovate or tear down and build new custom homes here in New England.
Awesome. And can you tell us also, we were talking before the podcast about this. Tell us about your show.
Yeah, so in my 20s, I was trying to be one of those guys on those really cool TLC home renovation shows, right? And I got really frustrated with big networks and, everybody telling me to fake it and do things I didn't think was cool, and also just never really catching a break. And I decided after I started my business about 11 years ago that I wanted to pursue that passion of being on camera. So I started my own production company and my own television show called Heart of Oak in New England. And we did about 56 episodes, which is, if you know local TV, that's a lot of episodes. And it was over 5-6 years. And I feel very grateful to be surrounded by a lot of people to make it successful. We did 56 episodes. We aired to 14 million households. And, the benefit of it, as we spoke about, was we didn't make a ton of money on it, right? But it kind of fueled my passion, kept me motivated, but also helped me build my brand, right? So it was almost like I don't want to say being paid to market my business, but I was doing something that was creating revenue, albeit not a lot, but enough. And at the same time, promoting my business and helping sponsors promote their business. So worked out great. We're dark now, but I just signed a distribution deal, so you can watch it free on Roku, Tubi, Zumo, Freebie TV. It's called Heart of Oak. And you could just check it out at heartofoaktv.com as well. And my website is oakdd.com for my development website. But, I know what your first question that you sent me was, just an overview and why I got into it, right? And I would say, it was my family business was swinging hammers, running heavy machinery. My dad built a bunch of rental properties, and through that, I learned how to work with my hands and what hard work was really all about, right? And then I decided to go to college for broadcasting, which now is paying off after 20 years, for broadcasting and television, and decided I never wanted to be in TV. Came out of it, pursued trying to make the Olympic team for rowing for quite some time. Never quite made the national team, but was pretty quick for about 10 years. During that time, I was just doing whatever I could to kind of pay the bills, selling real estate. I worked in a ski shop, whatever I had to do to fuel my habit of rowing, right? And when I eventually retired, I went into the corporate world in marketing and worked at a footwear brand and worked at a sports toys, like a licensed sports toys brand, working with all the major league baseball, NFL, and NHL teams. And then during that second stint in corporate America, I flipped a house on the side to kind of get caught up on bills from rowing and pay off college. And I saw my second company I was at kind of not doing great, and I wasn't really happy there. So I ended up leaving on my second house with intentions of going back. And then 2 turned into 4, turned into 6. And now I think we've built over 40 houses over 11 years.
Wow. That's a lot.
And yeah, and then, 4 years into it, we started our TV show. And so I guess you could say I've turned into a serial entrepreneur between selling real estate, building homes and running my own business, producing a TV show. And now, we're trying to bring our brand to the next level with television, and we're pitching major networks. And yeah, so, I said I would never go back to swinging a hammer, but never say never. It just kind of happened. I started swinging a hammer on the side to make extra money, and now I don't swing the hammer at all anymore. And I just write a lot of checks and help support other families who do swing hammers.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. It's very interesting. So
I'm not your conventional guest. I'm all over the place.
no, you actually, a lot of our guests are in a similar boat, so you'd be surprised. Most entrepreneurs, we have, multiple businesses and different irons in the fire, so it's perfectly fine.
Right.
So going and talking a little bit about the home building, we'll approach it at that angle. What's the biggest problem facing the home building industry, and how are you solving for that for yourself and your clients?
I would say that there are two major problems. And I don't love the word problem because that's negative, right? It's challenges, in my opinion. It's two major challenges that if you're willing to kind of figure out a way to work around, you're going to be successful, right? I think the guys that are kind of putting their hands up and getting frustrated are the ones that are missing the boat. One is the how strict the environmental regulations are on building new homes and renovating new homes has gotten extremely difficult, and anybody that's old school is struggling with it. Um, I tend to be old school, but I'm willing to adapt, and so I've been able to make it very beneficial to my business and finding ways to not only hit these energy codes, but also surpass them so that people are getting like really high quality, very well performing homes in today's climate, right? But it's not easy and it's a lot more expensive and there's a lot of unknowns. Not all of the rules are really ironed out yet, right? So it's like the government and the state of Massachusetts is telling us one thing, but then we get to the building department and they're telling us something else. And so there's this kind of like in between uncertainty of like what the right way to do things are in a way. And so rolling with the punches and helping my clients understand that we're the experts in figuring this out, and that's why you're hiring us, right? And I'd say that's one of the biggest challenges. The second biggest challenge is workforce. The trades are a dying breed. Now I think that's starting to change a little bit, but I think it's commonly known that our industry is really struggling to attract younger people into the trades. And so that's something I've been a big proponent of supporting, is helping support, trade schools and bringing the trades back. I don't know if you know, but something like 80% of shop classes were eliminated in the last 10 years across America. And so, I grew up in shop class 3 days a week. And, I never thought that it would lead to a career where I, build two, three, four, $5 million houses, right? I didn't get that when I was tinkering with a small engine in shop class. But I think the biggest thing is that everybody's retiring and there's a massive gap in labor. And so it's becoming harder and harder to find dependable people because they're just not out there.
Yeah, if you happen to be a politician listening to this podcast, you got a couple of hints there on what you need to fix. Number one,
Yeah.
the shop class, bringing that back. And then number two, trying to make the regulations at least to the point where they make, it's clear what you're supposed to do. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
for example, in Massachusetts, back to the climate change stuff and environmental, they tried to ban gas lines on new construction, like completely ban them. And there's been this massive pushback because to force everybody into electrified houses is fine, but we don't have the infrastructure for it. And, what do you do about a backup generator? What do you do about a wood burning or a gas stove, right? I can understand heating, okay, if we want to like eliminate and reduce the amount of consumption of natural gas, like let's make heating mandatory for electricity, but maybe the other items we can, think twice on, right? Like what if somebody wants a pool? I don't know if you're aware, but electric pool heaters are not efficient and they don't work well, right? So if someone wants a pool, you can't have a gas line to a pool heater. It doesn't really make sense. So that's just one small example of the way that things are starting to get pushed. And then there's pushback and then things are changing along the way. So now we're allowed to put them in, but they can only be for certain things, right? So it's a very interesting time for sure with climate change and the political sphere at the moment. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. It's definitely complicated.
Yep. Yeah. All right. In Texas, we have some of that too, but probably not as much as you do. All right. So, who is your ideal client, and what are the major outcomes they can expect when working with you?
I think our ideal client are people that kind of trust our process, right? Like we've been in business 11 years. We built some amazing homes. We don't do just one style. We're kind of all over the place by design. We don't want to be known as the company that does one thing over and over and over. We want to be known as the company that's creative, that could kind of take any style, any want, any desire, any need, and adapt it to create something unique that is going to be beneficial for the homeowner, right? And make our homeowners feel like they have an amazing experience, but also have something that suits every single need and desire that they have. And, the way that we kind of differentiate ourselves is we handle the process all the way through. So a lot of builders will have an outside designer or will lean on the customers to pick all of the design elements in a home. And the way that we do it is much different. We almost like an HGTV show, we ask our clients to trust our process and allow us to create what they envision. And so my team meets with my clients and gets to know them, gets to know their wants, their needs, their desires, and then my team goes back and selects every finish. Those are all samples up there in the house. So everything from a doorknob to a paint color to the handheld shower in the master, the vanities, any hard finish. We don't do couches. We don't do soft finishes or furniture or rugs or any of that. But anything that is that you could touch and feel in a build, we select. We go back to the client. It saves them energy and time from having to go out and find all this stuff. It's in budget because we know what the budgets are and we design the budgets to the level that we knew we could hit, right? So we're never asking a client to go out and give them a $20,000 budget and then they pick $30,000 of appliances, right? And then they're upset about the change order. Whereas we know what the budget is and we go out and we pick things to make sure we're in budget. So we save energy and time for our client. We hit our budgets, and then we're more efficient because we're controlling the whole process. We're able to move fast. We're able to order things when they need to be ordered. We're not chasing the client to make decisions. And at the end of the day, that's why we can build a 6,000 square foot house pre and post COVID, not during COVID, but now we're back to building a sizable house in less than a year. And when I say less than a year, 8 to 12 months from the day we tear a house down to the day we're moving people in. It's an extremely tight, fast deadline, and that's beneficial to us because it keeps our cash flow moving. It's beneficial for our client because it keeps their expenses down.
Awesome. Besides what you
So,
just
so back to your question, the ideal client is someone that really understands our process, subscribes to it, and trusts us to do what we're good at, right? Like the client that is willing to kind of give us the power to bring their dream to reality.
awesome. So you just kind of answered this question, but I want to ask it because there may be something else you want to add on top of this. What makes your business unique? Now, what you just talked about does make you unique for sure. But what else, is there anything else that you could add that makes you unique in your building process?
I mean, I think our ability to make changes on the fly, our ability to we're almost like a chameleon in a way. Like what's on paper doesn't always end up what we built. Hold on one second. Yeah. I'm just on a podcast, so I'll come down in a minute. What's on paper is not necessarily what we end up building, right? Like we may frame the exterior of the home one way, and then we're walking through, and Lizzie, my wife, and I will be like, it makes no sense to have this staircase here. Like it ruins the whole flow of the downstairs. What can we do? And this is a real example, actually, from a couple weeks ago. And on the fly, we decided to completely move the staircase on the first floor, change the layout of the second floor, and myself and my framers just figured it out. And we didn't charge client for that, by the way. We didn't charge for that change. We knew it was the right thing to do because from the beginning of ever meeting these guys, they said, we hate that you walk in the front door and our stairs are right there. We're like, we just don't know if we can move them. And it wasn't drawn that way. But then once we were in there, we actually saw what we could do. And it was half a day of work. And now we have a much happier client because they really got what they really wanted from the beginning, that the architect couldn't figure out on paper, but when you're on site and in the environment, you can actually figure it out, right? And so I think that's probably one of our best traits as a company is to be able to think outside the box and execute when other people would just do what's on the paper.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. So it sounds like a very comprehensive and painstaking service for sure.
Yeah, it's not
Switching
nonstop.
gears a little bit. Where do you see the house building industry going in the next 5 to 10 years, and how are you staying on the cutting edge?
You know what? It goes back to that energy code stuff, right? Like the next 10 years, anyone that's not really getting on top of solar generation, backup battery power, solar shingles, any sort of way to reduce the carbon footprint is missing the boat because that's where the whole industry is going. Like right now, I'm about to do my first solar shingle roof. Will be the second one that CertainTeed has done on in the East Coast, right, or New England rather.
My
And so
understanding is that in Massachusetts there are massive tax rebates and so forth with those sort of items, correct?
correct. Yeah. So there's tax rebates, but at the, at the end of the day, you're not going to make any money by making this change. You're going to help pay for a very expensive item you need to put on your house. So for example, solar shingles or just solar panels on a roof, it's going to take 5 to 7 years to pay off. Now, the initial hit will not be as bad because you'll get some tax incentives and maybe even some really nice like direct cash rebates. But you're not going to come out cash positive. It's going to be a mix, right? But you're investing for the future. And also, I don't think people really realize that all of the homes are going to start getting an energy score. That's why we get what's called a HERS rating. When we finish a house, our energy rater comes in and gives us a number and a score of what the house hits, right? And what is going to happen is over the next 5 to 10 years, those scores, although people don't think they mean anything right now, those scores are going to stick with your home. And eventually, if you have a HERS rating of a 41, okay, it's a scale of 0 to 90, I think, off the top of my head. If you have a 41, which is a very well performing house, but the guy next door never renovated, and you get and it's now required to get a HERS, like I'm assuming it's going to end up being required to have a HERS rating for the sale of the home, right? And he scores an 80 and it's the same priced house. Which one are you going to buy? You're
Mm,
going to buy the better performing house. So what's happening now is as the energy codes change and they get more strict, they're going to be giving your house a report card. And that report card is going to help the value of your home. And so over the next 5 to 10 years, that's going to really become a reality. And so if as a builder, if you're not getting on top of that, you're missing the boat.
awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I had no idea uh how important that is becoming. Um
It's
awesome.
becoming massively important. And again, maybe not right now, but in 10 years, it's going to make a big difference.
Definitely. 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 All right, so we're gonna switch gears just a little bit. Want to close with some questions that are just personal, just for fun.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is the oldest technology that you remember using?
So back when I was a kid, so I'm 44, so back in the mid 80s, power drills hadn't come out yet, right? They were just starting to come around. But I remember my dad would put hinges in doors with a drill, but it was a manual drill. So it was a shaft about, I don't know, 18 inches long and it had this spiral thing on it. And he would put the bit against the screw and jam it like this, and it would twist the screw into the door. And that was the first type of screw gun, was a manual screw gun. And I remember him using that and teaching me how to put hinges on doors using that tool. That's probably the oldest thing I've used.
Wow. Thank God for power drills now. I'm sure
Thank
that took
God.
a lot of effort and trying to
I mean,
make it go in.
I remember putting crown molding up with a hammer because my dad, like nail guns just came out and he's like, I don't trust those things. They don't work. Right. So, it's funny how, we're not that old, but you think back like nail guns have not been around that long, maybe 30 years.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. I remember my dad was a handyman for a while, and I remember that there was a time where he wasn't using any nail gun. And
Yeah.
then one day got the compressor and the thing, and I was like, this is the funnest thing ever. It's just
Boom, 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 boom.
yeah,
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 well, and now we don't even use compressors anymore, unless you're framing a house, you use a compressor. But trim, you use battery operated
yeah.
Milwaukee.
It's getting
Done.
better and better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't plugged a compressor in because if I'm using a nail gun, it's for something quick and easy. I'm not like framing a whole house myself anymore. And so I don't think I've plugged a compressor in for 4 years. It's crazy.
yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, it's the technological changes too. I think those are going to continue to revolutionize building and
Oh,
just
yeah,
make it better and better, quicker and quicker. And I mean, I love it. It's a fun time to be alive.
totally.
Um, all right, PJ. So this is a shorter podcast. We're gonna finish here. Everybody, the podcast airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 11 something. We will be putting PJ's information. We stream it across LinkedIn, social media, Facebook, etc. You can also find it on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel, the Entrepreneur's Edge Podcast. And we're going to put his information in the bio. If you're interested in looking for a good home builder, this is a really good one, especially in that Northeast area. And you can also ask to be put on our email list. It's Jared. If you email me, I will make sure that you get on our email list when we have a new podcast that comes out. PJ, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. You've been an excellent guest. And everyone, we hope to see you on the next podcast.
Thanks so much.